Real running conversations. I said I'm running for the city. I got the new word in my view. I got the new word in my view. Oh, my journey I pursue. Oh, I'm running for the city. I got the new word in my view.
They ain't got no muscle, no hustle, no backbone. I stand alone.
Like what you have going on right now, with people.
No, of course. So, I spent a lot of my life as an athlete, grew up as a competitive swimmer and did that through college. And then after college, kind of got away from not just the sport, but fitness in general. And really kind of had a hard time with it for about 15 years or so. And got to a point that, I was looking at it and I had a lot of health issues. I was over 400 pounds and everything else. And then, with all that, ended up having an accident where was on a bike, car came out of an alleyway. I didn't hit the car, but, flew over the handlebars and broke my arm and my elbow and all that kind of stuff. And because of the surgeries and those kind of things, had to start facing some of the health issues I had and what was going on. And it was kind of a turning point because it was crazy. One of the first thoughts I had when I had the accident was like, well, am I ever going to be able to swim again? Now, at that point, I wasn't swimming at all and, wasn't having plans, but it was almost like, wait a minute, now it might be taken away from me. I want to be able to do it. And so it was just a mind shift at that point, realizing I need to start doing something to change the way, I wanted to live my life. And so that's where, it's where my name came from. I literally just started walking because it was the only thing I could do at that point after my surgery. I had a big sling and a cast from my shoulder down to my fingertips. Couldn't really do much else. And so just started walking every day. And, the first few days it was like, hey, I'd go around the block and then, okay, maybe I'll add on another block and hey, maybe next week I'll shoot for a mile. And the crazy thing is that was a little over 2 years ago now. And so as I kind of started, building it up a little bit more and got cleared to kind of get in the water and swimming, I always had in my mind, I wanted to get into triathlons and I was planning on trying to do one years ago, but wasn't able to I think actually the race ended up getting canceled among other things and everything else. And so then I kind of just went right back up with my weight gain and that kind of thing. And so it got back in my mind, hey, I wanted something to shoot for. I wanted a goal as a part of my wellness journey. And did my first try. It didn't go as planned. Actually, the swim portion got canceled. So it was a run, bike, run, which for someone who had spent 6 months working his way up to running a 5K to find out the morning of you had to run another mile on top of it. I was like, wait a minute. Like,
it this completely is not, turned your world upside down, right?
Exactly. And so, but even with all of that, I finished the race and, my family and people who are close to me, they're like, you're going to be doing another one, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah, I've got the bug now. Yeah. And so this past fall, I did my first half Ironman. And now I'm getting ready for my next full triathlon season. So I'll be doing another half Ironman in June. And then one or two smaller races throughout the summer, and then another half Ironman in September. So I'm really excited for it.
Awesome, man. Well, speak about that like a little bit more. I don't know, in depth, like the Just Start Walking, like the name that you have on Insta. Because like I was saying before we got you in here that like that's how I started. Yeah. Like I literally for my mental health, I just. Like one day I just went on a walk. I was like, I've got to get outside. I've got to get on a walk. Like I've got to go take a walk. You know what I mean? And that's how the bug started for me. Yeah. Like I just started walking and that walking turned into a jog and then I still even now I run and walk, simultaneously at the same time. But so talk on that, and how, I don't know, it's about just getting out kind of sometimes and just walking will do so good.
It's one of those things. I think the name really came from probably when I was about 3 months into my journey. And it started to become visible to people that, like, hey, he's got something going on, or hey, he's, doing something.
Right.
And I started getting the question all the time, like, well, what are you doing? Or how did you start? And I really took that to heart in the sense of, people were really maybe kind of seeing something I was doing and wondering, what is that? Because I think, let's be real, there are a million things out there, especially on social media, of like what you need to do for weight loss, or how you need to start, or all these different plans and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I literally just started walking. It was the first thing I started changing. I started moving my body a little bit more. And I think it's so hard because people see the goal they want to get and where they're at, and it looks like that giant mountain. And it's just like, it was the same answer I started having over again. I'm like, well, I just started walking. And they're like, well, yeah, but now you're doing triathlons and everything else. I go, yeah, but I literally just started walking, and I did that for months. And there are still days now where I might be having a bad day, or I might be having, a day that maybe I ran too much the day before and I'm too sore and all that. It's like, for my well-being, I will still resort back to walking. Yesterday here in Chicago, for the first time in weeks, it was above 40 degrees and the sun was out. It's like, I made sure, I'm like, I need to get outside. I need to walk, because it truly recharges me. And I think it's just probably the most underrated thing. I think for anyone who wants to start any kind of program or do anything to better themselves, walking to me is just that thing that can help. And I think from there, you can really start to even have then the thoughts of like, okay, well, what can I start changing in my diet? Or what can I start also working on, that kind of thing? Because it's one of those things that you can easily continually build on and build on and build on. And so you see more accomplishment happen that way, instead of starting a plan and after 2 days you're so sore, you're like, well, I can't continue this. This isn't going to work. Right. No, just start walking and then figure it out from there.
Right. Like you said, like the mountain, like it is a process, and it is just tiny mountains along the way. You know what I mean? Like, right, to get to the ultimate, the huge mountain that you're trying to get to, like small goals along the way. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
And I think even with that imagery you said of the small mountains, people don't forget, once you get to a peak, there's the backside of it as well. And that's a part of that process too. It's like, over 2.5 years, nothing's been perfect. I've had my weeks that I've struggled. I mean, the last few weeks, I've had work stress, I've had life, everything else. It's like, they haven't been the weeks I've thought, and I've been tough on myself, but I'm also able to go back and remind myself of like, you might not be happy with what this week was, but 2 years ago, you wouldn't even believe the week you've just accomplished. And so I think that's some of it. It's like giving yourself that grace as you go through the process.
Right. Exactly, man. Exactly. Grace is the big thing, I think. Like, just give yourself grace. You're not going to get it all down. Like, start the small steps. Right. Hey, thank you guys for joining. We've got 3 on here. Cool. If you guys, thank you so much for joining in. If you guys have a question or a comment or anything, or you can, here's the thing. This is just laid back. If you can relate to anything that Tim is talking about, feel free to, you know what I mean? Chime in and let's just talk. Tim, so first question, and you've kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but go more into it. What inspires you? What motivates you? What gets you out there? What got you out there for the first step of just walking? Of just knowing that I wanted something better for myself, that I wasn't happy with who I was or what I was doing, and knowing that I could be doing so much more. And I think it was hard as someone who grew up as an athlete and even was an athlete through college. There was always that time of I'm comparing myself to what I used to be in that kind of way with it. And that's going to end in dead ends all the time. And so I just looked at it saying look, this is what I am right now. What can I do tomorrow to better myself? And still trying to use that motto in the sense of that always doesn't mean the training. Maybe one day it's what I'm focusing on with my eating. Maybe one day it's my sleep. Maybe one day, I think one thing as endurance athletes we all avoid is adding more stretching in, or those kind of things of it, of knowing that it's just those small things. And so for me, yes, I love having races. I love having things to shoot for, but that's a parallel track to the overall just kind of life I want to be able to give myself, and knowing that, hey, I am happy when I've got something to shoot for, something to train for. That's where I really feel that excitement, and it ripples into
all the other aspects of my life. And so I think it's one of those things where if I wasn't training for a triathlon, something like that, I would be doing something else to better myself in that kind of way of it. And
Right.
the long-term goal is just my well-being. And I think that's the biggest thing of all.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So well-being, like physical being, mental
Absolutely.
health, all of that. Right. My daughter just got on here. Hey, daughter. How's it going?
Awesome.
Sweet. And this is, I like this question because it's two totally different equations or different spectrums of this. But what do you enjoy most about like putting in the work and training, and what do you dislike the most? Because I always like add to this question, and I did the last time too, because people sometimes social media wise, they only see like the good things.
Yeah.
And they only see like, our best moments and stuff like that. Like, yeah. I'm not going to put on my Insta probably, or maybe I should, I don't know, that I'm trying magnesium oil. I'm trying to like put magnesium oil on my feet now.
Yeah.
To try to like, you know what I mean? Like help in I'm always looking for like ways, to recover faster, to reduce inflammation, like all of that sort of stuff, but I'm probably not going to put that on my Insta, you know what I mean? Because nobody wants to see that.
No, and I think that
you know what I mean? Like what do you enjoy the most, but what's the like hardest part? Like the part that maybe people don't see, like behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying?
I think the thing I have loved the most is, and it's small, but it's kind of almost the excitement I get of like knowing I've got like a big workout the next day or something like that. That it's something that like, man, I've got this challenge tomorrow that I'm able to do. And it sounds crazy, and I like, trust me, like my wife will kind of look at me. She's like, "You've got what tomorrow? Like you're doing what kind of workout?" But I'm like,
yeah,
but
my wife does that too.
I'm at that point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to continue to do this if I have this excitement to it. This is something that I want to do and not something I have to do. And I need to remember that, this is an opportunity. And, there's a lot of people who maybe wouldn't be able to do this because of what they've got going on and everything else. And so I think for me, I make the most of it. Even today in the cold weather and maybe not feeling the best and all that kind of stuff, it's like I'm still running in downtown Chicago along the lake shore and all that kind of stuff of it. I'm like, this is just a great thing to be able to do. I think the thing I have the hardest time with, and I think you even touched on it a little bit, is turning to that social media or seeing what other people are doing, or whether it's Instagram, Strava, whatever else. It's like, they're all highlight reels. And I think the worst thing as someone who is trying to do training, someone who's trying to do something for themselves, you need to understand that it's a highlight reel. It's always a highlight reel. And I think you can look, and I give a lot of credit to people who've made careers or have built followings and everything that they can do in those kind of ways of it. But I really value the people like, you and I and other people I've met who maybe have those 100 or 200 small followers who are maybe posting every few days or whenever they can, and maybe not posting everything, that kind of stuff, because they're the people that are really going through it. They're the people that are balancing their training, their racing, their work life, their personal lives, all those different things of it. And that is the reality of like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to post everything I want to post. I know I've talked about wanting to post a lot of different stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's 8:00 at night. Last thing I want to do is edit a video or try to do different things. I think what I would rather do is have someone DM me and it's like, hey, you know what? Let's have a talk. Or, hey, if you're local, let's go for a walk and chat. I would rather focus on the community side of stuff than the posting, the stats, and all those kind of things with it. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is the comparison. I think is what is always the hardest thing to do, and making sure, and I think in the last year it's been one of my biggest benefits, is finding that community to have around you that will celebrate your small things or remind you to celebrate the small things when you are beating yourself up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good, man. Hey, I want to take a question real
Yeah.
quick. Somebody, Michelle said, it's been a year and I still can't run only for 1 mile without walking a little. Can you speak on this?
No,
And I've got my thoughts on this too, but you go ahead.
sure. No, Michelle, that's a really great question. And as someone who, um, it's funny, I think in the last 6 months, I've actually started to understand like when people talk about runner's highs and that kind of stuff, because like beforehand, I'm like, I don't know if that will ever
What is
happen. I'm
this
like,
thing? Yeah,
yeah,
what is this thing you call
yeah,
the runner's
like,
high?
no, I don't think so. It, when I did my first triathlon and I did a sprint, so you had to do a 5K at the end of it. It took close to a year for me to build up to that without stopping or anything else with that and those kind of things with it. I think the biggest thing is a come up with a plan that suits you best, where you're not trying to overdo it. I think for everyone, it's very, very different. And to me, some of the best athletes I know, like you've got some great runners, you've got some great athletes that are cyclists or swimmers or all those different types of things that, in those ways. Um, Look for the small improvements and have that plan where it's like, hey, I know for me in the way I kind of built it up is I would do workouts based on like time intervals where it's like, hey, I'm going to run for 15 seconds and then I'm going to walk for a minute and a half and maybe do that, a few days a week for 2 weeks. And then like once I started to feel a little bit more comfortable with that, it's like, okay, I'm going to run for 15 seconds, but now I'm only going to walk for a minute and cut down that rest a little bit more and get more run repeats in during that time. And maybe only start with like doing those repeats for like 20 minutes and then build up to 30. And so it's creating that progression as you go and have something that you track. So when you do have those weeks that maybe you're not seeing the improvements, stay where you're at, because I think as much as we can follow a plan online and those kind of things with it, those plans don't take into account the stress that you've got at work, how you're sleeping, what else is going on in your life, those kind of ways with it. And so if your progress is not matching the progress that is on those training plans, that is okay. And to go at the pace. If you need to stay at a level in a training plan a little bit longer, stay in that plan. Don't look at it as a failure or those kind of things. Training plans are guidelines. They are not like the absolute rulers of how well you're doing in that kind of way with it. And so to me, it's like, make it what works for you. And I think that's where you'll start to see a little bit more progression in the way you kind of do with it. What do you think?
Right. Well, I completely agree with you, all of that stuff. I really do. And you even touched on it a little bit. Like I feel like we go back to the grace thing, right? Giving yourself grace.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that probably, I don't know, it doesn't fit the running mold or whatever it is, but I don't really care.
Good.
I don't care about that. So I've done 5Ks, I've done half marathons, I've done 10Ks, I've done 8Ks, I've done, like I've done one marathon and didn't finish the other one. But on all of those, here's the thing, like I walked.
Yeah.
Like I still walked. Like, did I run also? Yeah, sure. I ran the majority of it, but I still walked. So I think it comes down to like, if you have to walk to get that mile in, then you walk.
100%.
If you can run, and you kind of said that too, like with the whole like, if you can run for 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is, and then you know what I mean? Like you have to walk the rest of the time. That's okay. Like I feel like, a lot of times we're too hard on ourselves because we think that we have to run the whole mile or the whole 2 miles, when in all reality, listen, we're doing better than some people because we're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not like sitting on the couch, or we're not like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean that in a harsh, I'm not saying that in a harsh way. I'm just saying like, give yourself credit for what you are doing. You know what I mean? Like, don't focus on like what you're not doing. Give yourself credit for what you are doing, if that makes sense.
I think it's one of those things, and I know I'm going back to some of the imagery we talked about like the mountains we climb in these journeys.
Right.
I've told people, it's like, I think the biggest mistake we can make as we're climbing and having those struggle points is like, it's like any kind of mountain drive in the country, like scenic drives, there's those outlook points or like lookout points that you can stop and then look over the valley and see how far you've gotten in that kind of way with it. I think more and more people need to realize that in their journey of like, you know what, I do record all my workouts, that kind of stuff. 2 days ago, I did a 3-mile run in my neighborhood that was like the 3-mile course I used for months to build up to my first triathlon in my running, that I did all my run and walks on and all that kind of stuff. And I literally did that course on a morning that I was feeling sore, had no energy, was just going to go out and be like, okay, I'm just going to do an easy 3-mile loop and everything else. And it was about 1.5 miles in as I made my turning point to come back home, where I realized I'm like, I used to be at this point and being like, I'm done, I can't do this, all this kind of stuff. And now this is like my easy recovery run right now. And like, yeah, it took 2 years to get to that point, but it's like those small moments are the things that will keep me going, in the sense of, and I think this is for anyone who's maybe got a goal to train for a 5K or 10K, that kind of stuff of it. No matter how that race goes, how much you have to walk and everything else, from the point you decide to do that race until the race starts, that is the victory right there. The race is extra in that kind of thing.
Yes.
I think it's like, that's where you need to put in that reflection time. And so like, you know, like Michelle is like, you are going through that and everything else. Just the fact that you are continually committing for a year to get to that point,
right,
shows more resiliency than so many people out there who would have given up after not even a month. Right. And so there's a lot of credit. And I think it's one of the things I personally try to do now when I'm on trails or on routes and I see other people running, just to give them the head nod or the wave. Cause it's like, you don't know what their day is like. You don't know what's going on. You don't know mentally how hard what they're doing is right now for them. Where I know, like, when I see people a part of a gym I'm at, those kind of things, and we're on runs and we might say hi to each other. Like, we've had those moments where we've gotten back and seen each other. It's like, man, I was having the worst run ever, but like, I saw you and I'm like, I can't stop now, or that kind of, it's like, you never know what that half second, like, interaction can really do in that kind of way of it.